Okay, so it's noon. So I'm going to go ahead and get started so as not to waste any of your time today. So my name is Anesa Buchanan, and I am the DEI Consultant for Unity Point Clinic and Unity Point at Home. And for this Diversity Week presentation, we wanted to try something a little bit different. So I wanted to share with you some books that will provide understanding of DEI and the community around us. So the first book that I'm going to start with healthcare specific books. I'm going to utilize different categories to kind of keep it separate. So we'll do healthcare specific books, we'll do adult based DEI books, and then at the end we're going to do some children's books. So the first book that I chose is called Medical Apartheid: The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. This book is by Harriet A. Washington. This book discusses the atrocities performed on African Americans, including slaves and others with minimal choice to participate. These procedures were oftentimes painful and not just performed on adults, but also children. These procedures and drug testing at times ended in fatalities, if not lifelong damage to the physical health and well-being of the participants. It also created things like infertility or other irreversible conditions. Some of the most notable atrocities were performed on enslaved African women by a man by the name of Dr. J. Marion Sims, who is known as the father of gynecology. He stated that Black women could handle pain or did not feel pain as strongly as white women, so he did all of his procedural testing and experimentation on these women without anesthesia. After he was assured the procedures worked, he would then perform them on his wealthier white clients under sedation, as in his words, they were more fragile. The knowledge gained was used to make innovations in medicine, and this resulted in the acceptance of this research by some in the medical community. It has since been denounced by a lot of people. The next book that I chose is called Unequal Treatment: Confronting Racial and Ethnic Disparities in Healthcare by the Institute of Medicine. And this addresses implicit biases towards someone's race or socioeconomic status, and also addresses blatant falsehoods in beliefs of some healthcare professionals. This book is very well known amongst healthcare professionals. It addresses many topics, including false perceptions of people of color, such as their skin is thicker or they require less pain medication. This book came to the consensus that some of these views existed by interviewing medical students, residents, and practicing physicians. This book even addresses things such as the basis for differing analysis of test results due to a person's ethnicity. It uses concrete data to directly call out racial disparities and, in the end, suggests different data collection and research initiatives that can help address some of these beliefs and disparities. This book was originally published in 2011, and since then, this book has been used as a guide to address some healthcare disparity issues within our healthcare communities, especially the knowledge base of some of our medical students and residents when they enter the medical field. And the third adult book, or healthcare specific book, that I have is called Love Thy Neighbor: A Muslim Doctor's Struggle for Home in Rural America by Dr. Ayaz Verji. It's an intimate look at the struggles of a medical doctor entering the workforce in a rural community. In 2013, Dr. Verji left a comfortable job in an East Coast hospital and moved to a town of 1,400 in rural Minnesota. He felt as though he was called to help address the shortage of doctors in rural America. But in 2016, this decision was tested when the reliably blue working class county that he lived in swung red for Donald Trump. Verji watched in horror as his children faced anti-Muslim remarks at school, and some of his most loyal patients began questioning whether he belonged in the community. Verji wanted out. But in 2017, just as he was lining up a job in Dubai, a local pastor invited him to speak at her church and address misconceptions about what Muslims practice and believe. This was her way of extending an olive branch to Verji and helping to restore their community. That invitation has grown into a well-attended lecture series that has changed hearts and minds across the state, while giving Virgie a new vocation that he never would have expected. He does a lot of his talks in church settings and reaches out to the local community just to share his beliefs and what Muslims practice, and also how he treats his patients and the way he treats his patients. So he was able to use his struggles to build a bridge with his community, and it's a very heartwarming book. Now we're going to move into our second section, and these are adult DEI books. These books are meant to allow you to question your beliefs. Some of them have some very polarizing statements in them, so you have to be prepared to deal with those feelings of discomfort when you're reading these books, but they are very insightful and very helpful along your DEI journey. So the first book that I chose is called Caste: The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. This book was selected as the 2020 Book of the Year by the Oprah Winfrey Book Club. It takes a polarizing look at American society and its structure. This can be a very intense read. It may create some cognitive dissonance for some readers and will cause everyone that reads it to take an introspective look at themselves and their beliefs, regardless of race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. This book explores what Isabel Wilkerson calls the 8 pillars of the American caste system. These 8 pillars are divine will and the laws of nature, hereditability, endogamy and control of marriage and mating, purity versus pollution, occupational hierarchy, dehumanization and stigma, terror of enforcement, cruelty as means of control, and inherent superiority versus inherent inferiority. There is one story in this book that resonated with me personally. Isabel Wilkerson refers to it as the idea of the black man in the hoodie. In chapter 12, she discusses the scapegoating of minorities in American society. She tells the story of Charles Stewart. Charles Stewart and his wife, Carol, were a young couple expecting their first child. Charles was a general manager for Edward Caracas & Sons Company, and Carol was a tax attorney who was pregnant with their first child. They went to dinner one evening and, according to Charles, were accosted by a raspy-voiced black male who shot both of them in a botched robbery attempt. He killed Carol and the baby and seriously injured Charles. The Boston police embarked on an unprecedented manhunt to get the dangerous black man, as they were quoted as saying in the newspaper, off the streets. They arrested a black man that fit Charles's description, named Willie Bennett. Charles positively identified him in a lineup as the shooter. As Willie was arrested and placed into custody, the only reason Willie was released and not placed on trial for murder was that Charles's brother came to the police and told them that Charles had confessed to him that he had shot his wife to collect life insurance money. Charles was afraid his wife would not go back to work after having their baby, and they wouldn't have enough money to maintain their lifestyle. Instead of confessing to the crime, he blamed the black man with the raspy voice. This is just one example of the storytelling of Isabel Wilkerson and how she can attach such a personal touch to each of the pillars in her book. It is a very easy and amazing read as far as the wording and choice used, but it is a difficult emotional read to get through, but it does allow for a lot of introspection. The next adult book is Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria by Beverly Tatum. This addresses issues of race beginning with childhood thought. This is a very insightful book that addresses racial inequities and other issues of race in a very profound way. Beverly Daniel Tatum, a renowned authority on the psychology of racism, asserts that we do not know how to talk about our racial differences. White people are afraid of using the wrong words and being perceived as racist, while Black people and Black parents of color are afraid of exposing their children to painful racial realities too soon. This book helps us to bridge these gaps and provide knowledge so that these issues can be broached in a respectful and insightful way. This book opens up dialogue between different racial and ethnic groups and helps have truly insightful and good conversation so that you can tackle the tough issues without being afraid of offending or being offensive. The next book is called Beyond the Borderlands: Migration and Belonging in the United States and Mexico by Deborah Latanzi Shutika. This book explores the issues of belonging and displacement that are central concerns for residents and communities that have become new destinations for Mexican settlements in America. Beyond the Borderlands also completes the circle of migration by following migrant families as they return to their hometowns in Mexico after having settled in the United States, and provides an illuminating perspective of the tenuous lives some of our Mexican residents are residing in, but not fully part of. They have to balance the line between two worlds. It struggles the it shows the struggle of Mexican immigrants to acclimate to American culture and the biases and social discrimination they face at times, while also remaining true to their own culture. This is a very easy reading book, and you can tell that Deborah has completed extensive interviews and research to follow these migrant families and their stories. This is a wonderful book, and it offers so much insight into our Mexican American families and their culture. And now we're going to get to my favorite part. I absolutely love children's books. So these books that I've selected are children's books that are diverse by author or thought or illustration. The first book I'm going to begin with is called I Am Enough, and it is by Grace Spires. This is a beautifully illustrated book that has a poetic tone to its content. It is empowering and teaches young children to love who they are, respect others, and be kind to others. The entire premise of this book is amazing and is good for every child, not just Black and brown children. So for the children's books, I was able to find some excerpts of the books, so I'm going to have you listen to this with me, please.
I'm not sure that we're getting sound, Anesa.
You're not getting sound?
I wasn't.
Okay, just one second. Okay, just one moment here. I have to, just one sec here.
Did you see Vanessa's comment?
No.
It says when you go to share screen, there's an option to include the computer audio. So you might want to try to reshare the screen.
Okay.
Be right back. hopefully Anesa will be able to rejoin us here momentarily. But until then, have of the folks that are here, have you guys read any of the books that she's presented on so far?
I think so this is Vanessa. I'm looking forward to reading a lot of those. I mean, even the children's books I've seen, um, they're actually super heartwarming. After this, I think we're going to be able to have a list of all the books she talked about, but there's also quite a few new books that the library's gotten recently. I think maybe even some on this list. So I'll have to double check on that. But I know we just got an email recently that there are quite a few more books in this vein in our library here, at least here at Methodist.
Your mic's
I
off.
think it got completely kicked off. I'm back. I apologize. So let me fill this up from where I stopped, and then we will get this going. Okay, just one sec here. All right, it's coming back. Sorry, guys. Can you guys see it in my presenter view, or are you seeing it differently?
It looks exactly like it should.
Okay. Okay, so were you able to see the video at all for this one? For I Am Enough?
We could see the video screen, but we couldn't hear anything.
Okay, I'm gonna play it for you again. It's only 2 minutes long, so here we go. We'll go ahead and play that for you.
Hello.
So I absolutely love that one. That's one of my. So next we're going to go to Hair Love. And in this book, the father is tasked to do his daughter Zuri's hair before a special occasion. Zuri loves her hair and all of its curls and coils. Zuri's dad's love for Zuri outweighs his frustration in trying to figure out how to do her hair. They work together to make it beautiful for her special event. This book has amazing pictures and a beautiful story of self-love. So I'm just going to show you a little snippet from this. This book is actually an Oscar-winning short that Matthew Cherry, the author, made it into a short film after he wrote the book. So here is Hair Love. So little Zuri just wants her hair done in that particular style for her special event. This next book I have is called I Am Whole by Shola Oz. It's a very rhythmic storyline and is tailored for children around the age of 7. It's catered to multiracial children, so it helps them to love each and every part of their culture and background. It's beautifully illustrated and focuses on how to reassure your multiracial child that every part of them is important. And then for our last book, this book is called You Matter. And I wanted to end with this beautiful book by Christian Robinson. This book tells our little ones just how much they matter. No matter how big or small they are, they still have an impact. Since You Matter is one of our values here at Unity Point Health, I wanted to be sure to share this one with you as well. Please enjoy this short video. So I wanted to end on that note. Also, I have been purchasing my books for the last couple years from this place called the Soul Book Nook Store. And it's a Black-owned bookstore. It's located in Waterloo, Iowa. And I included their information just in case anyone was interested. They do ship, but it's not like Amazon, of course, because it's not free. But all of the books do cost about the same as a book would cost from Amazon. So now I'm done with my presentation, and I just wanted to open it up if anyone has any questions or comments about any of the books we discussed today. We still have about 4 minutes left. Did anyone have a favorite book that they saw that they would probably be interested in purchasing maybe? I always love the children's books. I think they're so beautifully illustrated. I saw that chat right now about asking if I had any books about recommendations for racial disparities in healthcare. One of the first books that I put on their unequal treatment is a really good book about that. It really lists out the clinical case for it, and it details how certain biases that we have just from growing up in life can affect our treatment of others in healthcare, such as they did a survey on some medical students, and one of the medical students, well, not one, a lot of them truly believed the statement that Black people's skin is more thick than white people's skin, so you have to apply more pressure when doing IVs and drawing blood. So it was very interesting, and it was a really, really good book. It's a really good read. It is slightly outdated right now because that was the first edition, so it was like 2011, and you will see that there's been a lot of change in the healthcare space since then, but the premise of the book is very good.
Hi, Chaplain Eric here, and with my kids, some of the books that we've appreciated, it's like they're called I Am, and then a person. So I am Rosa Parks, I am Harriet Tubman, and there's a whole bunch. It's a whole big series, and we've really enjoyed those and helpful ways for our kids to get to know some of these people.
Yeah, those books are so cool, and they actually sell those in a box set on Amazon now. I saw those a few weeks ago. I was buying a book for a little cousin of mine, and so I got him that little series, but they are so cool. And just like I said, the illustrations in those books and the information, how they bring it down so the children can understand it, is just so, they're just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? We only have 1 minute left.
This is Mioka. Anesa, I just wanted to say great job.
Thank you. Well, I just want to thank you all for coming to our little book talk today. Even though we did have a little glitch with our technology, I appreciate you all sticking it out so that you could hear about these wonderful books. And if you need anything, you can email me, first name, last name, Anesa Buchanan at unitypoint.org. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Anesa.
No problem. Thank you.
Nicely done.